You're listening to the Geriatric Mamas Podcast with Jessica Raziri
and Sonia Tapley.
So this is episode 25, which is crazy. We're climbing up there. And it's the last recording before Christmas. I cannot believe it. It's literally creeped up on us. Right? I feel like I was telling like one of my work friends this, that it's like, it's not like Christmas is on the same day every single year. It's like, we know this is coming, but yet every single year I feel like I'm just so surprised that it's here. like I'm just so shocked.
You're like what's happening?
Yeah, and it's like, but it's like, you know about this. I had a whole year. Like it's the same thing every year. Like, why are you always so shocked? And here I am again, shocked that it's like days away. So, my
so
goodness.
Funny.
Well, Sonia, do you want to introduce who the other voices that our listeners are hearing?
So today we have Miss Lisa Schuman. Lisa is a licensed clinical social worker and therapist who is now a family building expert, award-winning researcher, therapist, podcast host, and author. She reached out to us to be a guest back in early November and is both an expert guest and a geriatric mama who was unable to conceive her babies naturally, and she has 3 children. Lisa is joining us today to share how she helps hopeful parents to be find their way forward during an incredibly challenging process with confidence and with joy. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, so welcome.
Thank you for being here. We're so glad you reached out. We're really excited about this episode for sure.
We are. I know. I was like telling Sonia, I was like, are we smart enough to talk to her?
Oh, of course.
I'm like, yeah, got you covered there. That's why we asked her to come up with the questions that we need to know the answers to. So we do have listeners, reach out to us via email a lot of times just to let us know that there are donorship situations out there, because Jessica and I went through IVF and Jess went through IUI as well. So we don't personally have that experience. And a lot of our Hope-isode guests so far haven't had to go through that. So we are so excited to have what you do represented here along. And I know you also represent surrogacy and adoption. So you can speak on so many topics that our listeners are looking to hear about. So with that being said, how do you feel
jump
about
right
jumping
in?
Yeah,
we'll jump right in. So I have the first question. So tell us how you got involved with working in the field of infertility.
Oh boy, it was a long time ago, probably more than 25 years ago, certainly maybe close to 30. So fertility treatment was very different back then. It was very, very different. And I tried to get pregnant on my own, and my husband had sperm issues and I had issues that required surrogacy. And I talk all about this in my book, Building Your Family, which is available on Amazon and everywhere else. And it was a really difficult journey, a lot of miscarriages and other issues. We went through surrogacy and that didn't work either. And then we ended up adopting our 3 children. And my fertility doctor then said, I think you should consider going into this field because I think you could help a lot of people. And I had analytic training. I had a license in substance abuse training. I'd worked with families. I did so many things, but never fertility treatment. So I went to the American Society for Reproductive Medicine and I took the courses that they had at the time. And now I'm actually helping to form some of those courses, which is great. And I continued to learn about it. And I decided I really enjoy it. And I've never looked back. I've worked in-house for several fertility treatment centers. My last one, I was director of mental health services for Loom Fertility and for gay parents to be. And I've published a lot of research and done a lot of really exciting things. And through my experience, I've found that a lot of people who go through fertility treatment, as you guys know, it's very stressful and depressing for a lot of people. And so people will say to me, well, I'm really surprised to hear what you're telling me. How come nobody has said that before. And so I decided after all of these decades that maybe the next step is just to try to amplify some of the information that's so valuable to people by putting it in a book and putting it on my podcast, which is now called Donor Conception Conversations, but at the beginning of the year will be called Building Your Family, because
cute.
I love
yes,
that.
yes.
Me too.
Thank you. So it's going to be the same name as the book and represent more people, because
Smart.
people are asking questions about
Right.
surrogacy and all sorts of other family building
I think
treatment.
it'll be
And
really easy for people to find. That's good.
thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
That's so
Well,
cool.
We're very excited about it. Yeah.
We are too. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Lisa.
Well, as I said, I'm a therapist.
She's like, I just
researcher.
did.
I know.
Sorry.
I'm just kidding.
That's all right. I'm a therapist, a researcher. And, my goal is to try to help people have an easier journey to parenthood and a better parenting experience. I have a book called The Life Book, which is also on Amazon, My Life Book. It helps people journal and chronicle their stories so they have a vehicle to help them talk to their children about their origins. And so I'm really focused on helping people build the modern family, because not all of us can do it the old-fashioned way.
Right. It's really smart. You're looking at it from all angles. I know we had a surrogacy expert on, I think it was episode 10, and she had a couple of books that she read to her daughters who were born via surrogacy. But it's really amazing that you've covered all of these things. You're just one person. You're just one person. And you've thought of all of these things. It's amazing.
Well, it's a labor of love.
Exactly.
Yes. I mean, you definitely have to love it. I feel like a lot of people that we're running into that are in this, I mean, they are personally connected to it some way or another. They're very, it's personal, and they're passionate about it. And that's what drives them to do. I mean, that's why, like, Sonia and I, we started off the episode kind of like griping about like, we're doing this, we're doing that. It's so much work, but it's like, we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't love it, if it wasn't personal to us, if we weren't passionate about us. And that's truly what drives us. So it's like, to you, it's like being an outsider and looking at all the things that you do. It sounds like a lot, but probably to you, you're just like, this is what I do. Like, you know what I mean? You just do it because you love it. So I know, oh, sorry. Did you say?
Nope.
Okay.
No, I was just going to say, and also when I see a problem, I want to help people with it, because people struggle so much. The internet is full of misinformation and people don't know where to go in and get the right information. There's a lot of like coaches out there that, are good, decent coaches, but some people just share their experience because that's their experience, and they don't really have, the information about everything they need to know for their clients. Some people just post information about their surrogacy agency or their donor conception agency or their fertility clinic.
Right.
And maybe it's not, it doesn't look exactly the way it should. And so I really want to help people kind of clear away the issues and be able to achieve their goals as easily as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'd kind of like to, if you can expand on it a little bit more. So your book, Building Your Family, The Complete Guide to Donor Conception, what led you to writing that book as well as creating a podcast?
So it was, much of what I've mentioned, that I feel that there's so much that people don't know. And working in a large fertility clinic and seeing thousands of people who are pursuing donor conception and donors and also people who are going through surrogacy, I've seen so much. And, in my last job working at Illum Fertility, we were able to develop an open donor program. I developed an embryo donation program. And so I did a lot of things to try to help people, but yet I was still seeing over and over again the same problems come up for people, and they just didn't know where to turn. So I decided I really need to put this information in a book and in a podcast so that it can reach a wider audience, so more people can get help, because most people just don't know where to look. Social media can be very depressing, and, the internet can be very frustrating, and people just don't know what to do. So I've just decided that I have to put this all in a book so that people can learn and kind of have a guide to help them through the process. Not to mention the fact that, when you're going through fertility treatment, it's so stressful that people often see their doctors for the first time and all they hear is like those Charlie Brown characters, wow, wow, wow. They can't even process what their doctor's telling them. It's a lot. And, who remembers their 10th grade biology class, right? Nobody. So there's so much to learn, and it's really helpful to have a guide that you can look at and say, okay, this is what's happening. This is what I can do. These are the things I haven't thought about yet. And people, when they're anxious, they can't be clear-headed enough to think about, well, how should I make this decision? They make emotional decisions, and sometimes they regret them later. And these are decisions you can't unwind. Once you make these decisions, you can't unwind them. And I've seen so many people with regrets and hardships and feeling like if I had only known, I would have done it differently. So I want to help people have an easier path if possible.
Right. What's coming to mind right now is, we talked about this story before, but what's coming to mind is there was this gay couple, of men.
I was thinking of that too.
Yeah. So they had gone the surrogacy route to have their babies, but they had gone through an agency in Mexico, not realizing that surrogacy was illegal in Mexico. So these women were actually being treated horribly. They were doing it voluntarily, but they were being treated horribly, and they weren't getting the medical attention that they needed. And also they couldn't get passports to get their babies back home to the United States after they were born. So I don't know if you heard that story, but that's just one of those things where you can't take that back, So
I want to look into that a little bit more though, because I'm a huge reality show junkie, and I watched 90 Day Fiance, and there's actually a gay couple on there that they live in Mexico, and they are in the process of going through surrogacy, and they're okay, and it's working out. So I wonder when that other story happened, and if it's legal in some places, some parts, I don't know, but yeah, because I saw it, I was like, wait, I thought it was illegal. Do you know?
It could be
Lisa?
Also because they were going from the United States to Mexico and vice versa. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, some places, in many places, it's not legal. But also you brought up another issue about human trafficking, which is really difficult. And there are an increasing number of people who are being trafficked for both surrogacy and egg donation. So that is starting to become a big problem. But and we do have there are fertility clinics in the U.S. who have branches in Mexico, so they could see their fertility doctor in Mexico and then come back to the U.S. for the actual treatment and transfer. So, but it really is important to try to have whatever the medical treatment you're going to have in the U.S. because we have the FDA, we have guidelines, we have ways to try to put guardrails on some of these problems here that you don't have outside of the U.S. I actually even had a call from a family friend who said, I want to freeze my eggs, and I heard about this great place in Mexico I want to go to, but there's no reason for it. We have some great fertility clinics here, and you really want to make sure that you're following FDA guidelines and that you're going to be able to have access to your eggs, right? You don't want to have them have the problem of having them shipped overseas and what's going to happen to them. So it's really important to try your best to stay here if possible. I think, our country has a lot of advantages in that way. So there are places around the world that do use donor conception, that do have fertility treatment, that do have surrogacies. So I'm not saying that's not possible anywhere, but there are a lot of countries where it's really not a great idea. So I think if you can, and we have a huge amount of people who come to the U.S. for that reason. I've seen people from every country in the world come here to try to do fertility treatment for that reason.
No, that's a really good point.
Yeah. So it really makes sense if you can.
That makes sense.
Sonia? You're up, Sonia.
Sorry. How has the field changed since you started?
So it's changed enormously. When I was trying to build my family. Surrogacy was not something that was common on the East Coast. There were surrogacy agencies on the West Coast, but on the East Coast it was very, very difficult, and the contracts were not boilerplate, so the surrogates didn't know what to expect.